Hello, and thank you for joining me today. It's Alan Barry Labucan here from the rocksandstocksnews.com website. It's been a while since I did a show on a market commentary. I've got some trends that I'm seeing that I think are going to be very bullish for the price of gold, silver, copper, other battery metals, and I've got a group of companies that I think will perform well in that kind of an environment. And so I've got a shopping list. I've got some market trends to talk about. So let's get rolling on it right away. One of the topics I wanted to start with was the Federal Reserve. They've been talking about inflation lately. The official policy recently went from its transitory inflation to its frustrating inflation. I don't know what comes after frustrating, but I think that we're on a trend to see a lot more inflation. Some of those signs are, you look at Costco recently, their financial chief officer, Richard Galante, was talking about the rising costs of goods such as oil, coffee, nuts during their earnings call. He listed a raft of inflationary pressures, including high labor, freight, and commodity prices. If you look at, you can find on the internet lately, we've been going around the social media sites. I've seen some pictures of all the ships that are outside North America and sort of stuck at sea. And the reason that they're stuck at sea is because they can't find workers that want to unload and move that material, those products around. So this idea that inflation is going to be transitory, or I think it's going to get a lot more than frustrating. What it comes down to is there's just not enough cheap labor out there, so in order to get that products off the boats and out to the consumers is going to take, I think, higher wages, and wage pressure is the biggest impact on the price or on inflation. And if you just don't have, if you're not paying people enough, they're just not there for you to do the work that's needed. And that's where I think we are right now. I think there's a serious labor problem. Cost of living's high. With all the stimulus that's out there, they're paying people not to work. So if you're paid not to work, and why go to work if it's not for more money? So I think wage pressure is going to go up, and that's going to have an effect on the stock market, which the stock market is grossly overbought right now. I think that it's just looking for a reason to correct. It was down a few hundred points today. It's the valuations are extreme. With the inflation, it's going to mean that it's going to be a squeeze on their margins. Labor costs go up, a squeeze on their margins. So they can't deliver the kind of earnings that justify these kind of valuations. So I think the big market is in for a correction. And I think it's going to come down to, it's already showing up in the food prices. You look at the farming business, and if you look at the average age of a farmer, it's over 60 years old now for an American farmer. The young folks just don't want to work that way anymore. It's hard work. And I think you're going to see this happen across the board, and countries are going to need to get back to farming, manufacturing in their local domestic countries, domestic markets. You can't rely, the cost of shipping stuff, let alone that it's not moving, it's sitting out on the ocean. The cost of shipping has gone up dramatically. So these are all pressures that are going to go back into the local economies. where you have in the industrial countries not enough workers that want to do the hard work for the price that's available. So again, wage pressure is going to go up. You're seeing it at Coca-Cola. They're going to great lengths to transport materials. They're even looking at now using bulk shipping vessels that are normally used for food and stuff like that. They're using that. The carriers are those bulk shipping vessels that they're using are normally used for grains, coal, other raw materials, but they have to go to extreme measures, and they talk about due to shortages, delaying transportation. Extreme cases are halting transportation altogether. They have to get creative with their transportation of goods and materials across the world. So this isn't just a United States problem. This is a world problem. Costco, as I mentioned, Target, they're all having to get very creative to combat the issues at the port. The ports are all backed up, causing mass delays. And the main cause is ongoing labor shortages and the increasing number of ships that are backed up. So not only do you not have enough workers for normal, now they're all backed up, and you have even less workers out there. Hold on a sec. Sorry. And they're working, they're trying to work this supply chain, but they're not having much success. They're trying to go to non-congested ports. So yeah, it's a big problem, and we're seeing it also in the mining sector. You know, labs are backed up dramatically, and the reason that they're backed up is because when you send material to a lab, the first thing that has to get done is crushing. They have to prepare that material to be assayed, and that takes a lot of labor-intensive work, and they're having a hard time getting those workers, and that's why we're seeing all kinds of delays in companies that want to get their assay results out there, but they can't get their assay results out there because the labs are so jammed up with so it's right across the board that these short labor problems are happening. And so this idea that the inflation is transitory or now frustrating, I don't know what comes next, but I don't think it's going to change. And if it gets to where I think it's going, and I think all signs are that inflation is about to get out of control, it's very similar to the debt situation. You've got out of control debt worldwide. And that puts the central bankers, including the Federal Reserve, in a very difficult position, one of their own making, I might add. But that difficult position is they have no tools left in the toolbox in order to fight inflation. They've got to talk about transitory and frustrating this, but the reality is that they are not going to be able to fight inflation. If they raise interest rates even slightly, you're going to see, you're going to see them kill the economy, and they're not going to do that. So, you know, if inflation gets out of control, the Federal Reserve can't do anything about it. That's very positive for the price of gold. And so let me start on the gold. I'm going to share my screen here, and I'll get the gold chart up there. Oh, I got the wrong one. Here we go. There's the gold chart. And so this is a weekly chart, or sorry, that's copper. I'm going to talk about copper too, but let's start with gold. So if you look at the price of gold, I'm going to put up here this is a yearly, weekly chart. And I just want to make sure I'm sharing it properly to everybody. Let me get this up here. Sorry about that, folks. I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulties. My website's not working for me the way I would like it to right now. Let's see here. Oh, I am sharing the screen. Okay, so this is a weekly chart. We're going back to 2016. As you can see, from 2016, 17, 18, 19, gold was really going sideways here, moving in a tight range. This is indicative of a lot of the stock charts that I'll show you later, but this is often what happens after a long basing period. You get these spikes in the price. And as you can see here, in around April, May of 2019, it was flatlining for a few years and then it blasted off. And then since around, let's say this time last year, about a year ago, started going sideways again, creating another base. But what I would point out is this is coming off of a base here at about 1,271. Now the base is, let's say, around 1821, currently trading at 1770. Couple other important notes is a few months ago, it had a correction that brought it down to the 1700 level. This is important because, as you can see here, there was resistance here, and now that resistance became the base. It had a good run off of that and then has consolidated again, but now we're creating a higher high or higher low, sorry. And that's a very bullish sign to me when I see higher lows in a stock, or actually the basing period is an important one as well. As I said, I'm going to show you some stock charts here on juniors that are exhibiting that basing kind of period, but then followed when the fundamentals are right. In the 1920, you know, the debt was going crazy. It's still going crazy. I think it's with a resurgence of significant inflation that I think is unstoppable. $2,000 to $3,000 an ounce, I think, is in the cards over the next year, maybe as soon as 6 months. We're seeing good demand in the wedding season in India. And I think that investors that want to protect their purchasing power with the situation with stocks not being, I don't think stocks are a good, they look like they've been a good parking spot for some time now, but I think that's going to end, and it's going to be very bullish for the price of gold. Now, we're also seeing a similar story. Silver and gold tend to follow each other, and silver tends to lag gold. So in that same time frame of 16 to 20, silver was on a long basing period at, let's say, about $16.89. It took till 2020, so almost a year after gold broke out, for silver to join the party. Then it went parabolic for a while there. And lately it's been coming off. It hasn't created its higher low. But with the bullish signs that I'm seeing in the price of gold, I think that this is the low, and we should see it bounce off of there. Another commodity that I like to follow is copper. This is also going back to 2016. As you see, a long basing period at about $2.70 in around March, April of 2020. It started to blast off. I think, you know, the stimulus all over the world is causing that. And I think they can't really stop stimulating. And if you've got that stimulation in the economies of the world, and you have inflation as well, you're going to see strong demand for copper. And we're seeing that, now copper's at about $4.23 today. I think it's going a lot higher than $5 a pound. And I just think that, the electrification of everything is going to require a lot of copper. And with the government stimulus going into electrifying vehicles and everything else, you're going to need a lot of copper. And that brings up a subject that, it's like we're going through another industrial revolution. This revolution is the electric vehicles and electrification of everything revolution. And that's going to require a lot of copper. But even if you look at the copper market before this trend has been developing, just to meet the demands of the global economy, and I'm not even talking about how crucial it is for the industrialized countries to rewire their electrical grids, which are very old and in drastic need. You take that out of the equation, you take electric vehicles out of the equation, just alone for the needs of copper. Copper was needing to find Escondidos every year, but we're not finding those kind of deposits. So the demand is tight, was tight, getting tighter, and there's just not enough discoveries out there. So I'm very bullish on the price of copper. And I think that in order to have this electrification of everything, including vehicles, the developed countries of the world are going to need to rewire their electrical power grids. So you've got two big, hungry demand places for copper and other battery metals as well. You just don't have enough deposits being found out there that can replace what's been mined over the last 25, 30 years. So I think we're coming into a real renaissance for gold, silver, copper, and battery metals. It's a new revolution in industry, is the electrification of everything, and the electrical power grids aren't prepared for it. I don't think the battery metals are prepared for it. The raw materials that are needed for all of that, there's not been enough going into exploration for those over the last 30 years that I've been in the business. And that is going to come home to roost. Robert Friedland said it's the revenge of the miners. And I think that old-fashioned economics are going to come back into play. And we're going to see that those miners that are doing good work in exploration, development, and mining are going to be the tech stocks of the future. Tech stocks are grossly overvalued. A lot of them are about sharing cat pictures and chatting with friends, but real economics needs copper. Fiscal economics tell you need gold. Silver is needed in all of those, new energy sources, cell phones. Everything needs commodities, but they're putting billions of dollars and billions and billions and trillions of dollars into technology to build things that there's not enough raw materials out there to build what they want to build. So this is what I think gets back to Robert Friedland's point about the revenge of the miners. I think it's real, and I think it's going to happen, and inflation's going to happen. So we've got a lot of things lining up for the price of commodities. So let me get onto my shopping list. I'm going to start with some companies that I've recently done interviews with. Amex Exploration, one of my sponsors of my website. They've got a phenomenal high-grade discovery in Quebec, right beside paved roads. They've been drilling it like crazy. and they have tremendous continuity of their high grade. I think that they have a multi-million ounce gold discovery on their hands of high grade, high margin gold in a mining friendly jurisdiction. It only has a $200 million valuation, as you can see over here. They've got a tight stock share structure. And I think that as gold gets stronger and they keep delivering with their truth machine, with high-grade gold in their drilling, that this is going to get re-rated much higher. I invite you to go to my website, rocksandstocksnews.com, and you'll find those interviews. The one that I really advise you to take a look at is one of my recent interviews was with Jacques Stratier and Kelly Malcolm from the company. And they are, Jacques and Kelly are really brilliant guys. And Jacques been around the block for a long time. These guys have in addition to a high-grade gold discovery, they've also got a copper VMS discovery not far from their high-grade gold. And Jacques Trottier has a lot of experience in VMS and high-grade gold. And so I invite you to check that out because he'll help you to understand more about what they're doing. And I think you'll be very impressed with Amex Exploration, AMX. Another company that I'm really impressed with, they're becoming a new website sponsor, is I80 Gold. I started picking them up as coverage in August. They've had a series of very impressive news releases out. I invite you to check out their website, and I80, what they've announced is high-grade drilling results. They've announced that they've purchased a processing facility, which makes them a special situation in Nevada. There's not a lot of capacity for these kind of deposits. As you can see, they were up 14 cents today, trading at $3.23. They have a $600 million market value. I think with the quality of the assets that they have in their current mines and this new processing facility and their ability to deliver with their exploration, that this is a company that's following the early days of Barrick Gold. And it was known as American Barrick back when I first started in the business, but Barrick, they built their future off of Nevada, and I80, led by Ewan Downey, is following that same path. I picked them up in the coverage around here at around $2.40. They've been as high as $3.50. They've had a good breakout, kind of a nice rounding bottom here. I think that they're creating a cup formation, and that's suggestive that they're going to go up the right side of that cup and take them into new all-time highs. But the bigger picture with I80 Gold is that I think that this company is going to one day have, and not too long in the future, a valuation in the billions, not 1 billion, billions. 1 to 5 billion type valuation, I think, is in the cards for them. They're in a great jurisdiction. They've got all the fundamentals. They've got an aggressive manager in Ewan Downey leading the company, and they're well financed. And I got a lot of hope for this company to be the next major producer of gold in Nevada. And I invite you to check out that interview I did with them recently as well on rocksandstocksnews.com. Another of my sponsors is Sokoman. Sokoman, I've been following them for a few years. They were down around 20 cents earlier this year. Actually, we did a online conference right about here. They were trading at around 22 cents. They had a great run because they're in Newfoundland, And with the Labrador, the success of some of the companies out there, led by Newfoundland Gold, it caused a lot of interest into Newfoundland, and Sokoman was one of the early movers. They made a discovery of high-grade gold a few years ago. And what we talked about in some of the past interviews that you can find on rocksandstocksnews.com is the similarities between what they have and the Swan Zone at Fosterville, which may put Kirkland Lake on the map. Recently, they're going through a takeover as well. But then, like a lot of gold stocks, after they peaked, they've been coming off. I think they're creating a really good base here, and that will be a cup formation. There's the left side of the cup. You've got the bottoming of the cup. I think next you go up, up, and up, because the fundamentals of what they're working on is that these high-grade vein systems are not easy to figure out. They've been kind of hampered in the past because they had to drill from the side of a lake underneath the lake. Now they put a barge in there recently, and they're going to be drilling off of that barge, which opens this thing up dramatically. I think that that's going to give them a really strong understanding of this high-grade gold system. And I think that they could find some swan zones under there. Company only has a $70 million market cap. You look at Newfound Gold, they've got $1 billion market cap, and they're looking for the same kind of stuff. So I like Sokoman a lot. Check out their website and go to and check out my last interview with them. My own company, Advanced Gold, is really moving into the lithium space. We were able to acquire a group of projects down in Mexico that are close to where I live here in Mexico. I don't know if everybody knows, but I live in Mexico. And sorry about that. And I live in a state called Zacatecas. And these projects are all central to this, or they're all right around this area. What makes these projects quite intriguing is that not only do they have lithium, they also have potassium. And central Mexico is the breadbasket of the country, getting back to that topic about food earlier. You know, this is where a lot of the farming for Mexico happens. And none of that, they have to import all the potassium. And that comes at an added cost that really puts the small farmer out of the ability to get that potassium. But it also, so having a source here in Mexico would alleviate that problem. In addition to the potassium, not a lot of people have recognized, I don't think they're even recognizing us, as you can see from the stock price. I don't think this is around when we got the lithium, and now it's been down. I think it's made a bottom here. It looks like a cup formation. And we also have boron, and boron is important for plant health. It helps to make the plants grow healthier, and the products that you produce off of that have better shelf life and more nutrients in them. So nutritionally, it's important. So we've got a good mix of lithium, potassium, boron, and we're also in the process of patenting a unique method to get those out of the ground. The deposits start right at surface. If you go to advancedgold.ca and check out the lithium page, we've got a picture, a Google Earth image, so you can see the size of these salt lakes or salars. And we also have done a significant amount of sampling that you can see in the charts below the Google Earth images of all the salars. And so we're working on a lot of really good stuff. And that doesn't mean that I don't still have a lot of enthusiasm for our gold and silver projects. I'm going to be working on some plans to get value out of those as well. But for the time being, lithium is high on our list. Lithium is extremely strong right now. And there's a hot market for the price of lithium. And so that's going to be our main focus, simply because it's easy to get out of there and it comes right to surface. There's road access to all these salt lakes. And I think you're going to be, we're working on some stuff that I hope to be able to talk about soon. And I'll leave it at that. Another company that I just recently did a interview with is Kenora Land Minerals, led by Zach Flood. And I had a great conversation with him last week. I'm really impressed by their key discovery that they have, that they're partnered up with Sumitomo. It's in Quebec. And what impressed me with it is this high-grade gold discovery has excellent continuity along strike. And that's a good indicator of continuity potential to go very deep in these orogenic systems. By the way, you can also find on my website a paper that I put out there about orogenic gold systems. And that's what these guys are looking for. It's what Newfound Gold is looking for. It's what a lot of these exciting gold plays are looking for, is these orogenic systems. And these guys have one. It's a series of veins that are coming together quite exceptionally. These guys have a very strong team. They attracted Sumitomo and other majors to their various portfolios of properties. And the majors pay them to do the work. They have a management fee of 10%, and that income allows them to put a really strong team together. And I mentioned in that interview that Zach Flood reminds me of a lot of, I've known Andre Gamond for a number of years. I met him first in the around the middle of the 1990s. And he followed the exact same kind of model as Kenora Land is following. They've got a bunch of drilling going on at their high-grade gold discovery. I suggest you do your homework, because as you can see, they haven't been on the market for very long, maybe a year, a bit over a year. And right now they're trading right at their all-time lows. Remember I told you about the basing? Well, these guys have been basing at, until recently, I would say an average price of about 85 cents. Now they're trading at 71, but they're on the verge of putting out a bunch of important drill results. And I think that that's going to drive their stock much higher, possibly into that, what you call parabolic kind of move. And I think you should take a look at Kenora Land. Take a look at that recent video, because there was a lot of good stuff. And the final question that I asked them was, what made Virginia such a big success was they discovered the Eleanor deposit. And that was ultimately bought out by Goldcorp. And then they spun out all of their other projects. That company was bought out, and then they spun out all their projects and did it again. So Andre was a 3-time takeover target there. And I think that these guys have the kind of portfolio and the kind of leadership and the strong geological team that can follow that same path. And so, a $32 million valuation on a company that's moving down the same path of Virginia Gold, I think is one you want to pay attention to. And I've done some recent interviews. Okay, so that's the recent interviews. I've got a batch here that I call core holding stocks. These are stocks that I think have they're miners, but I think they're undervalued. I think that they offer an opportunity for the investor that wants to get into gold and and silver at cheap valuations. I think that these companies give you a little less risk, but will outperform gold when the gold market gets stronger. One of those companies is a new sponsor and a guys that I did an interview with. That's I80 Gold. I'm not going to go more into that. I've already talked about them, and I recommend you check out the videos that I've done with you and Downey recently. I think that they're a company that's in line for the Nevada Premium, and I think they're on the same path as a young Barrick Gold. And I think they give you a lot of not as much risk, but they still have a lot of reward potential ahead of them. So I80 is one of those companies. One that I don't hear many people talk about, but I really think that this Orla Mining, OLA is their symbol. They've got $1 billion valuation, but I think that they're about to get a re-rating. One of the things you want to look for that Pierre Lassonde put out this curve, and it shows how in the exploration stage, you get your big gains. Then there's a lull that's called the development discount window. Then there is the next excitement when you put those discoveries into production. Pierre Lassonde himself is a big investor in this company, which kind of shocks me that more people aren't following it. Another reason that it shocks me is they're almost completely through the development discount window. And when they turn this mine on in the coming months, they're going to be the 7th lowest cost producer of gold on the planet. That's the kind of company that can get a lot of attention when gold is stronger. And I think that this one, again, you know, it's kind of been through a long basing period since March, at actually a slightly higher, I would say about 10% higher than where it's trading at right now. I think it's a hell of a bargain that's about to go up that other side of the Lassonde curve, which is putting it into production and being a low-cost producer. So if you want a little less risk, but you want to be exposed to gold in a stock that I think will dramatically outperform gold in a gold bull market, Orla should be on your shopping list as a core holding. Equinox, Ross Beatty's company. I talked about this company when they were quite a bit cheaper than they are right now over the last few years. I was talking about them back here when they were about half the price that they are right now, and they were twice the price they are right now in the past as well. So they had a good run. They've consolidated. They're buying out some companies. They're building deposits. Ross Beatty says that this is his swan song in the mining business. He's very bullish on gold. He's a very sharp guy and shrewd businessman in the mining sector. He's a serial entrepreneur that has made several big winners for investors. And I think when it's all said and done, this company will have a valuation north of 10 billion. Currently, they're trading at about a 2.5 billion valuation. They've got a great pipeline of new mines, long-lived, and low cost. And in a gold bull market, this is one you want to have on your list as well. For those that are interested in having a company like this, a core holding kind of stock, and they want silver, Mag Silver is another company. Here they've been basing around the $21 level, let's say 22 even, over the last year. They're in the late stages of the Lassonde curve, or the development discount window. In fact, they're through that development discount window. They've started production. They're moving into full-scale production over the next 6 months or so. This will make them the top first highest or second highest, lowest cost producer of silver. And if silver gets on a run, that will be very positive for their bottom line. And especially because they're such a low cost producer. So they can make money at 20, it goes to 30 or 30 to 50, and they'll be a cash making machine. And they've got other projects as well that will help them with their future. So this company made the discovery of Juanicipio here in Mexico, not far from where I live, actually about an hour's drive from where I live. They're bringing it into production. I recently drove through the town of Fresnillo, and you can see the mines out there. And it's first-class group, first-class operation, low-cost production, silver. If you want silver exposure with a little less risk, Mag Silver should be on your list. Okay, so now I want to get on to my radar screen companies. These are companies that have, I'm reaching out to them. I'd like to get more of them on interviews. Arctic Star Exploration, they recently made an announcement that I don't think a lot of people in the diamond business really, or investors in diamonds don't really understand. And I spent a lot of my career in diamond exploration, and one of the important things you want to develop is a diamond distribution curve when you find a kimberlite. And what you start out with is small samples. And from a small sample, they have found one of their kimberlites, it's a big one as well, has a very promising diamond distribution curve from the small samples that they've done. This will warrant bigger and bigger. I think they'll get it towards bulk sampling. They've got another kimberlite that looks like it might have a good distribution curve once they start doing bigger samples. If you're interested in diamond prices are very strong. I used to have a report just focusing alone on diamond exploration in Canada, but not many companies are doing that now. Arctic Star is one of them, and I think they've got a discovery on their hand that could get quite exciting in the coming year and a half. And I'd invite you to take a look at them and do your homework. ADD is their symbol. AZM, Azimuth. I started following them when they were way back here because of a discovery under $1 when they made a discovery up in Quebec. These guys have long been known as a really good exploration team. They've got some discoveries that I think could turn into quite impressive. They had a tremendous run last year around May, took them all the way up to about $2.50. Lately, they've been falling off the map. I don't think that that's fundamentals. I think that it's probably just more related to people waiting for results from their drilling. I think it's oversold. I liked it at $1. I like it here. And I think that this one's got a lot higher to go based on the quality of what they've found and what they can find. AZM is their symbol. Take a look at AZM. Another company that's been making noise, and this one, Benton. Benton is Benton Resources. BEX is their symbol. This company is a prospect generator company, and it's run by a family, the Stairs family, that are very talented prospectors. In fact, in the past, they were the prospector of the year at the PDAC. Really sharp family that's been doing this a lot. And recently, they did a bunch of deals with Sokoman, SIC, which is a sponsor of my website. And they're seeing some fruits of their labor. And I think that that's going to have a good effect on Sokoman. They're finding some lithium in Newfoundland that looks quite exciting. They've got some other gold and exploration. They were bottoming, and then they came out of that bottom in May, had a good run. Lately, they've been bottoming at a higher price, and I think they can deliver some good news. So BEX is another one you want to take a look at. BRC, I always keep coming back to this company when they trade around this 80 cent level. As you can see in the last year, they've traded around their lots. They had a spike in June earlier this year, it took them over $1. They are putting a lot of their eggs into this resource calculation that they're doing. And I think that that's getting people focused a little too much on their resource calculation. And that resource calculation isn't even going to include their Victor vein. And I think that Victor vein is quite exciting. It's got a lot of high grade gold and silver in it. They've got a series of veins that they're doing their resource on. Those are the most developed. I think Victor is going to see a lot more drilling in the future. And then they recently grabbed a bunch of properties to the north of where they are. And there's a big caldera there, and it looks like all the deposits in the Tonopah area are on the margins of this caldera. This kind of volcanic rock has an impact on how gold and silver get to the surface. And they've got a big part of it now that has been underexplored forever. I think that this could make them a bunch of new discoveries. So I think they got a bunch of new discoveries ahead of them. And I think that that's going to get them a bigger re-rating than the resource that they're calculating. So they got they're cheap on their yearly chart. I think that if silver gets going, that this is one you want to take a look at. BlackRock Silver, BRC is their symbol. The next company I wanted to talk about is Cypress Development Corp. They're in the lithium space. As you can see, lithium earlier this year took off. They were trading at around 45, 50 cents, traded as high as nearly $2, had a bottom, back up to $1.50. Their projects in Nevada. There's lots of enthusiasm for lithium. You've got the government that's subsidizing lithium. They want to have more mines in America. Nevada's a great place to do mining. These guys have an interesting project of lithium there. And, you know, as lithium keeps going higher, which I think it will, these guys, I think, will be, you know, they've already been a good performer, and I think that will continue. The next company is Dios. Dios is kind of related to company I talked about earlier, AZM. They've got a lot of projects near AZM, and I like the work that they do. They could do a little bit better on their marketing. I've tried to get a hold of them a couple of times to do some interviews, but they hard to get on the phone. But Dios is doing some really good exploration. They've got some high quality projects, a sub $10 million valuation. They're in good areas of Quebec. There's a lot to believe that they will get a higher valuation in the future based on the quality of their projects. DOS is their symbol. I think you should take a look at Dios Exploration. FWZ is Fireweed Zinc. Fireweed Zinc has what's turning out to be a high grade and big zinc deposit up in the Yukon. But recently they've made some discoveries. They're starting to hit some VMS mineralization with sniffs of copper in it. This is starting to sound to me like all they've found, and I don't mean that as a negative, all that they've found so far could be the extension of the VMS system. And if all that they've found, which is spread out over a very large area, lots of high grade, is indicative of where all that came from. VMS deposits have zonation of grade. Usually at the top of the system, you find zinc and silver. As you get deeper, you find copper and gold. I think that they've got the potential for that. I've been sharing some emails with their Brandon McDonald. I'm trying to get him on on an interview because I want to specifically talk to him about this. Where is this all coming from? Everything they found to date, and could that lead to something even bigger that could be quite? I mean, what they have already is exceptional, and if they find the source of where that all came from, you know, kitty bar the door, this one could have, you know, $500 million valuation or higher. Right now, they've got a $57 million valuation. Heliostar, HSTR, is a company that I've been following for a lot longer than this company's been. Heliostar. It used to be Red Star. I can't believe that's hard to come to my name because I used to be a consultant to the company. And Scott Weeks unfortunately passed away a number of years ago, and that's when I sort of ended my relationship with Red Star. But before, the key thing that he was working on was, I still remember to this day when he called me up and he said, Alan, how do you think the market would react to this? And he explained everything that Heliostar now has in Alaska. He said it's a vein system, it's high grade, it has gold and silver, it's got good infrastructure, and he asked me how I thought it could be, and at that time I had picked a company called Extori that made a big discovery in an epithermal vein system, much like what they're looking for in Alaska, and they ended up getting bought out. And I said to him, yeah, Scott, I think the market will really like it because it sounds to me a lot like what Extori is finding down there in Argentina. And he was able to put the deal together to get all that ground. And now Heliostar is advancing that ground. We didn't get a lot of chance to do a lot of work, sadly, because Scott passed away. And then we had a hard market for the price of gold. And so the interest wasn't there. But now Charles Funk is running the exploration on that. Charles has made helped make a discovery on a company I'm going to talk about later. And he's doing the work at these projects that Red Star used to have. And I'm really optimistic about that. They're making some good discoveries. This is great land up there in Alaska on the Aleutian Islands. It's quite mild of weather for Alaska. They can work several months of the year. And they've got a bunch of, they've had some good drill results out recently, and I think they've got more. But another element to the company is that Charles knows Mexico quite well, and he's added Mexican exploration to the Heliostar portfolio. And I like his chances to make discoveries down there. And recently I listened to an interview on the KE report, Corlin report, and he talked about their Mexican stuff they were just sort of doing the work to prepare for drilling, but they really thought that they were going to stay mainly focused on Alaska. And now with the discoveries, the work that they've recently done has increased that interest in their Mexican stuff, and they're getting ready to drill in Mexico. So they've got drilling in Alaska on an excellent project. They've got drilling on Mexico with an excellent project, $28 million valuation, not a lot of stock out. I think this one's run by a sharp guy, and it's got a lot of growth potential left in it. Now, earlier I talked a little bit, I brushed on some of the Newfound Gold. Newfound Gold has been a rock star in the last year. They've been as high as $1.5 billion valuation, almost $13 a share. They've only been trading for a year and a half or so, and they were down around $3. Made this extreme high grade discovery in Newfoundland. Recently, it's come down quite a bit off their highs. And I think for those that are, this is another Fosterville kind of situation where they're not just looking for one swan zone, they're looking for a cluster of swan zones. And I think that, if you've been looking at them over the last year or 6 months, this is probably the great time to be looking at them because they're well cashed up. They're doing a lot of exploration. And I think they've got, I listened to their presentation at one of the recent mining shows down in the States, and I was quite impressed with their potential to make multiple swan zone kind of discoveries. And if they do that, even at a $1.29 billion valuation, they'll be looking at several times that valuation. So, if you're looking for someone that has that kind of potential, Newfound is a good one for you to look at. Which brings up another company near them in Labrador in Newfoundland called Labrador Goldcorp. As you can see, they followed a similar path in their chart as Newfound Gold and had that peak, came off of it. I really like their location of their projects. They're in the same geological structure. And they're finding the same kind of stuff, and they're further behind Newfound Gold, but I think they could play catch up. And this one's another one that could see a north of $1 billion valuation. Certainly in that target price of $500 million to $1 billion is in the cards for them, I think, down the road. And I like the exploration work they're doing, what they're finding. I think that they could make some spectacular discoveries as well. LAB, I like their symbol. It's the first 3 letters of my last name. So I think that this is another good way to get exposure to the action in Newfound Gold. These guys move in lockstep, so it's kind of a leveraged play on success with Newfound, plus the added leverage of if they can make a discovery, which I think they will. So Lab's another one. I'm going kind of long here, and I apologize, but I've got a lot on my list. And that's a strong indicator that we're in the bottom of the market. When I can find a lot of stocks to talk about, it usually means that there's a lot that are oversold and that a turnaround is coming. So after I do my apologies, let's get on to McEwen Mining. They've had some operational issues over the last couple of years that, let me see, I'll get a 3-year chart. And you see that a few years ago, they were trading near $3, let's say $3 a share. Now they're $1.34. This is the period that they've had those operational problems. But Rob McEwen is a very smart guy. And I think they're going to fix their problems. And another reason that I'm bringing them up now is they've also got quite a large copper project in Argentina that nobody's really cares about. And they're planning to IPO that in the near future. And that's their Las Azules property. And I think that's something that you could be getting a 2-for-1 deal here. If they IPO that McEwen Copper, I think they're probably going to call it McEwen Copper. I don't know. But I think this is a heck of a turnaround play for their gold focus. But I think that they could have added juice because of their copper asset that's not getting any value in the stock right now. I'm trying to work on an interview with Bob McEwen. I've done one in the past. He's a super busy guy. His people are working on pinning him down to do an interview. So I hope to have an interview with him soon. We've had a great conversation about his company in the past. I'd like to have another one soon. So stay tuned. I think McEwen is a turnaround play, and I'm going to try and get Rob McEwen on an interview soon. Nano is Nano One Materials. Been as high as $6 in the last year. They've had about a 50% haircut. They're a battery metals technology company. And I've seen this company grow quite dramatically over the past few years. A few years ago, you could buy it for well under $1. They've traded as high as $6, about half that price now. They've got some exciting technologies that they're working on in the battery space. They've got the attention of some very big companies. I think that this is one for those. I'm very bullish on the battery metal space and battery plays because of the electrification of everything. And this one looks like a very top-notch scientific group that has a excellent future ahead of them. And I'm a fan of technology, and I'm a fan of lithium, and these guys are in the lithium or in the battery metals and technology side of things. And I really like their potential to be a much higher valuation stock. NANO is their symbol. They trade on Toronto. A company that I've done some interviews with over the last couple months, I forgot to talk about them earlier. I'm glad they come up now. It's Ridgeline Minerals. Ridgeline recently did a deal on one of their properties in Nevada with Nevada Gold Mines, which is a joint venture between Barrick and Newmont in Nevada. And if this turns out to be a successful discovery, their SWIFT project, Nevada Gold Mines, Barrick and Newmont, will end up spending, I think it's around $20 million. And so Ridgeline will have a free ride on the next $20 million worth of exploration, which is quite exciting. But in addition to that, they've got their Selena project, which is the first project that I started getting excited about that they have. And I think Selena is a quite an exceptional discovery as well. I've had some chats. You can find it on the website at rocksandstocks.com. And I like their business plan. I like that Chad has a strong history, experience in Nevada. He used to work for Premier Gold, which was taken over and then spun out. When Premier was recently bought, they spun the Nevada stuff into I80 Gold, which is the sponsor I talked about earlier. And Chad was part of the team that focused on the Nevada stuff. So he's had a good history with top-notch guys in the Premier Ewan Downey camp. And now he's going it on his own. Well, not on his own. He actually has a partner that's a driller. And so they founded the company, and that gives them a lot of bang for their buck in drilling. And they don't have any problems getting drill rigs, which, no joking aside, that's a problem these days, getting drill rigs in a lot of the camps in Canada and America. And so that's a feather in their cap. But, you know, if they were just having access to a drill, that wouldn't mean much. But they have access to a drill. They have access to funding. They have good exploration projects, good team. They've got a good discovery in Selena. They're also doing some work on their Carlin East project. And I think that they're going to see some fruits of all that labor in the near future. They only have a $23.66 million valuation, which, you know, is about the valuation of the work that Nevada Gold Mines will do in order to earn into one of their projects. So I think they're ridiculously cheap. I think that they're another one you should have high on your shopping list. The next company is Sterling Metals. I'm not going to talk a lot about them because I'm working on an interview. I think we're actually doing it tomorrow, so I should have it out in the next day or two. And I want to dig deep into this company because they've made a discovery of silver that looks quite exciting in Eastern Canada. And there's a lot of enthusiasm for Eastern Canadian precious metals discovery and exploration. SAG has one. I'm working on an interview, so stay tuned for that interview. But as you can see, this is the cheapest they've been in the last year. So if you've ever looked at SAG and you want to look at someone with silver in their discovery portfolio at Sale Pond, check them out. Another company that recently came onto my radar screen is a company called True Precious Metals. TRU is their symbol. They are near Marathon's discovery. And when a lot of junior explorers are kind of hiding these days, they are hard to get on the phones and emails sometimes. Fortunately, I've got a good group that has been doing interviews with me. But these guys actually reached out to me last week, and I had an online conversation with their geologist and their management. Judy Ann brought them to me. She's their IR person, and I've known her in the past, and she's not hiding. She's doing her job. She reached out to me because she's seen, the past, what I've done. And I had a chance to go over closely their exploration thesis near the Marathon MOZ's discovery. And they're on the same structure. At Marathon's discovery, they found a lot of pristine, well, not a lot, but they found pristine gold grains on the Valentine Lake Corp structure. And that extends throughout True Precious Metals, TRU, ground. They're right beside Marathon, and that structure continues. But what's interesting is they've also found pristine gold grains right at that fault. And but what makes it even more interesting to me is where Marathon has made their discovery. There's a pretty good bend in that fault, and a lot of times those hinge zones or bends in the faults have a way of preparing the rock to then have a deposit of significant amounts of gold. At the southern end of True Precious Metals project, they've also got one of these hinge type areas. And the past work has found a lot of these pristine gold grains. These guys are planning to do some drilling in the next couple of months, and I think that they're on the list of ones that I don't follow a lot of early stage pre-drilling projects, but these guys have one that really catches my attention. They've only got an $8.35 million valuation. I'll probably have them on a show in the not too distant future. TRU is their symbol. Check them out. Okay, one last company. Running over an hour on this one, but like I said, I got lots of companies to talk about. Vizsla Silver, Vizsla Resources, VZLA. I've been following these guys since they were under $1. They've been as high as nearly $3, currently trading at $2.22. They're focused on high-grade silver in Mexico. Some of their drill holes have over a kilogram in their veins. That's a heck of a high grade of silver. They recently also did a deal to finish off. Now they've got 100% of their projects down in Mexico. And they're doing a lot of drilling. And I think that this one could be a fast track project into production of silver. They bought some milling capacity, and they have permits on these. So, they could go from resource economics and production really rapidly. I think that, at 327 million valuation, I put this one into the category of, they could see $1 billion plus in their valuation. Got lots of money, doing lots of drilling. I'm expecting a strong news flow out of these guys. Silver gets rocking. This company will rock as well. DZLA is their symbol, and they trade on the venture exchange. So I'm going to stop the screen share. So there you go, folks. In a bull market, I usually can't find a lot of good deals. In a bear market that's about to turn, I often find lots of stocks. I probably talked about 20 plus companies today. And that's because I like gold, I like silver, I like copper, I like battery technology, I like battery metals companies. There's a lot to look out there. And I think that this market for these kind of stocks is going to get much more bullish for the reasons I talked about earlier. And there you go. I've given you a shopping list, given you some core holdings. I talked about my sponsors. My job is done. Your job is to do your homework and speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. As always, this show is for information purposes only. I'm glad I've been able to put a good list together for you. Check these companies out. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing a lot more shows, a lot more interviews. In fact, I'm also planning another conference, online conference soon. And so you can check that out as well. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.